we're going to look at the built-in Python editor, idle. So if you have Python installed on your Windows or Mac computer or Linux, you can get to it in your menu. If you're on the computers in the CS lab, then you can start it with idle 3 from the terminal. I'm going to open it here. And I want to show you the debugger. So I'm going to start a new file. And I'm just going to, let's say, add up the numbers from 10 to 20. And then print out the total. And maybe I've done this correctly, or maybe I have done it incorrectly. So this is, I'll call it adding.py. All right, so I could run this. The way the idle editor works is we can have our program up over here, and then we run it. It's going to print over on this side, and we can actually do things over here as well. All right, so if I have this clicked over here, I can run the module, and I get 145. Okay, let's say that I had a program that I definitely knew was not working. So here I go from 10 to 20, I have total plus I, and then I'm going to print the total at the end. And I get 0. All right, or I could have some other program where I get the wrong answer. And one of the things that you want to do is play computer with your own program. So you want to start reading it from the top and keep track of what the value of the variables are and what's happening, and eventually you may see what the problem is. So I have a variable called total, which is 0, and then I'm going to have a variable called I, and I'm going to write down that I'm going to go 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Let's stop at 15. Okay, so that's what's going to happen with my I. I'm just sort of making a note of that. And then I'll put it like this to show. If I was writing this on paper, then I would probably underline the one that is the current value. I guess I could do that here as well. Okay, so that's what the value of I is going to be. And so the way a for loop works is I go inside here and I have total plus I, which will be 10, and the value is just sitting there. So if I can see if I'm really careful here, then I can see that I'm not changing the value of total. But maybe I don't see that, and I say, oh, total plus I, that's going to be 10. And then the next value of I in the loop is going to be 11. Oh, total plus I, now it's going to be 11. I'm just leaving those previous values there as a record of what total used to be. Okay, so you may run through it and you think it's going to work. What the debugger allows us to do is we can actually run it and see the values of the variables change. Okay, so if I have a file open, I actually need to click over here on the shell window with debug. So one way to do this is you click on the debug, put the debugger. So I'm going to put it like right here. I don't need, so I'm going to click on these two options, and I'll click that one as well. All right, and we're going to run this, and I'm going to see the values of the variables, and I can run this code one line at a time. All right, so now I have the debug open. I'm going to run. All right, and it's highlighted there on the top. It's about to run that line, and we can see that noted here that it's on that line 1. And I have different options here. If I say go, it's going to run the rest of the program. And that's done. All right, so that's not really what I wanted to do, but that's what go does. It finishes the program. Okay, so I'm back up here. It's showing that line 1 is where I was. All right, so it's about to run that line 1. I'm going to say step. Okay, so I ran the line 1. I now have this value 0 in the total variable. There's these other variables that are built in that don't really matter for what we're doing. We're looking at the total right there. And if I say step, it's going to go to the next line. Okay, so now we see I has that value 10, which is what we thought. And we're on line 4, which is right there. You can see the line 4 noted down here where my cursor is. And now I can say step. And what I think is going to happen, mistakenly, so I see 10. 10 plus 0 is 10. That's going to go into total, so I'll say step. And it's back up to line 3 because I finished that iteration in the loop, and I'm ready to go to the next one. The total didn't change. So now I had a line that I thought it was going to be changing total, and it didn't. I have a specific line that I just ran that it did something different than I thought on that one single line, and that's what you want. You want to find that one place where it didn't do what you thought. And here I would know that I need to actually save the value. I'm still in the middle of running this. I'll say go to just finish. It finished it probably with the original code. And now I'm going to run it in the debugger to see that value change. Okay. All right, so we're about to run that line. Let's see if total changes now. Now it changed. It's going to go to the next value of I. We've got 10 there. I is going to go up to 11. So what's going to happen? So I hasn't changed yet. First I is going to go to the next value. There it is. Now total should go up to 21. All right, so now I could go through and think through what's going to happen the rest of this. I goes up each time we add on the next value. And I think that's going to be it. And the last value of I is 15. I think it's going to print 75. I could go ahead and step through to see how it goes. Okay, and so something that's worth noting here, we have the value of total, and I is still there. We're not inside the loop anymore, but I does have a value still. It's still there, and it has the value 15. Okay, so now something happened, which is something I wanted to mention. I hit step, and it's on the print line, but now it went into this other file called run.py, which that's not my program, so what it's actually doing there is it's going into the code for the print function, which we don't really want to do. We don't want to look at the code for the print function. So I'm going to say out. Okay, and it printed my 75. It just went out of that function that it was inside of, that code, which I didn't really want to look at. If I start from the beginning again, so I'm going to step through I forgot. So if I get inside of there again, then I can say out. It'll run through the rest of that. But if I remember, let's say I'm going to print total and then I'm going to print I. Maybe I'll set I equal to 0 again just to see something different. Okay, so now I don't want to go into the print function. The over button will run that line without going into the code for print. So there we see it. And if I click over just on a regular line, it's going to be the same. It does that line. Okay, so the go will just finish the code. It'll stop doing line by line. Step will do line by line, and it will go inside of functions. Over will go over without going inside, and out, and then quit would just stop. Okay, and that will happen. So if we just run the module, it runs the module. If you want the debug, then you have to click over in the shell, debug, put the debugger on, and normally we want to look at locals, source, and globals. Source will make it so that it shows on the line. It highlights the line is running there. So you want to be able to do this yourself and in the debugger. First, you want to look at it yourself and sort of trace through what you think is happening. We'll also give you quiz questions like this. But then sometimes you're wrong. You don't see where you're wrong, and so then you can go through and run it line by line and see the code running. Okay, and this is in the built-in idle editor that comes with Python if you run Python as a standalone program, which you would need to have your code on your computer to run this. If you have your code on the server, then you need to use an FTP program. If you don't have an FTP program, then you can go over to our reading, getting started, system setup, and you want a file transfer program. And we'll put a separate video up for that. So that would be transferring files between the server and your computer if you don't know.